الحمد لله الذي أرسل رسوله بالهدى ودين الحق ليظهره على الدين كله وكفى بالله شهيدا وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Amma ba'd. As to what proceeds, we meet once again for our weekly meeting to study the book written by Shaykh al-Ma'sumi al-Khujandi rahimahullah ta'ala on the subject that is it obligatory, wajib upon a Muslim to make taqleed of a particular fiqh madhhab. The last athar that we read was the athar of Bilal ibn Abdullah ibn Umar and the issue of stopping or preventing the women from entering the masjid. Bil munasabah, for the sisters that may be interested, there is a risala by Ibn Hazm which is very beneficial with regards to women and nisa entering, attending the masajid. And it's a risala which is mufida. It's been translated into the English language. I don't know the preciseness of the translation, but the translation is out there. So for those sisters who want to benefit, and for those brothers also who want to benefit and who want to study this issue, then they can refer back to the risala of Ibn Hazm rahimahullahu ta'ala. His risala is in refutation to those who stop the women from attending the masajid. From amongst those who are very adamant and staunch are the Deobandi Hanafis. The Deobandi Hanafis. With regards to the Barelwiya, then the Barelwiya a bit moderate on this issue. They allow the women to attend the masajid, but the Deobandis, it's a no. There is no such thing as allocating a place for women to attend the masajid. In fact, we find that when the women come to Makkah and Medina, they don't allow the women to come to the haram to pray salah. Now, this is something which is known about these Hanafi Deobandi women. They stay in the hotels. They make their Umrah, Tawaf and that, but they don't come to pray Salawat, the staunch Hanafis, Deobandis. So they deprive the women who are already there for coming and praying in congregation whilst they are already there in al-Masjid al-Haram and al-Masjid al-Nabawi. A lot of it is to do with cultural. I remember that in the 90s, before pre-technology, the women were allowed to come to the masjid on the Sundays after Dhuhr to hear the bayan of the Maulana, but they were not allowed to pray Salah in congregation, with the congregation, to the extent that if the women were there attending the evening madrasa, which was 5 to 7 usually, and some of the salawat would fall in between that time, especially when winter is drawing closer. even then the women would have to pray alone. Once they could hear the microphone, but they were not allowed to pray in congregation. So you can imagine to what level, to what extent these fanatics go to. And I remember once somebody was having a discussion with some Deobandi Maulana. And he was adamant that women can't come to the masjid. They have to stay at home. They have to pray at home. So he said that your women are allowed to go to the markets. Your women are allowed to come to the masjid to hear your bayan. This is before the transmitters came out. When the transmitters came out, then they started preventing the women from attending the masajid. Also, they continued, but it was a bit more, they got more strict. But before the transmitters, we find that they would not allow the women to come to the masajid at all, but they would allow them to come for their bayans. And I remember researching that women are not allowed to pray in the masajid according to the Hanafi Deobandis, but they are women jama'at that go for 3 days and 10 days with the men. And when these women go out for 3 days and 10 days and 40 days, I don't know if they go up to 40 days, they don't stay in the masjid, they have to stay in somebody's house or a rented place. So there's all types of madness amongst the Deobandis when it comes to the issue of women attending the masajid. I mean, now in 2022, they can't really stop the women from attending the masajid, although they themselves don't have a place allocated for women. The structure of the masjid, or the way the masajid has set out, that there is no such thing as musalla nisa, or a place which has been allocated for the women. We find this, but what we do find is that the Hanafis, the Deobandi Hanafis, the people who come for Umrah, or when they come to visit Makkah and Medina, I'm talking about the old women from the villages who've never seen a masjid in their life, probably never been to. When they come to Makkah and Medina and they see everybody's praying in congregation and they come to the haram, they say, Ma'as salama to the madhhab. You can keep your madhhab here, we're going to pray. They go against the madhhab. And there's nothing that they can do about it. And nobody can even stop them. Because it's logical. They're going to think, how are we going to listen to you and not come to the masjid, and to Masjid al-Haram and pray Masjid al-Haram, and there's a reward of 100,000. They're already there. So that's why you see some of these old ladies, Pakistani and Indian ladies, they come from Dhuhr to the Haram and they leave after Salat al-Isha. All day they are in the Haram. All day. And it's a cultural shock for them that they're not allowed to attend the masajid, and they're not allowed to pray in the masajid. They can attend the masajid to become what they call alimas. They are allowed to attend the masajid to seek knowledge, which is not seeking knowledge but brainwash. Their version of seeking knowledge is brainwashing them. But they're not allowed to pray salah. They're not allowed to pray salah. I remember my elder sister. She used to go to a Muslim school in Leicester. It was the first Muslim school. It was called the Muslim High Girls School of Leicester. And she would tell me that when the time for salah would come, they would be at the top of the masjid. The school was on the top of the masjid and the masjid was on the bottom. And my sister told me that at salah time, the adhan would go, they would hear the adhan. So they could hear in speakers up there upstairs, and the people are praying downstairs, but they were not allowed to pray in congregation. You have to pray individually. So it shows, because this to be fanatic and stubborn, women are not allowed to pray into the masjid. This fanatism, this ta'assub, this taqleed leads a person to this extent. Now, so this was with regards to the athar that we studied, where Abdullah ibn Umar radiyallahu anhuma, he said to his son, la'anak Allah, may Allah's curse be upon you. May Allah's curse be upon you, la'anak Allah. He cursed his son with regards to when his son made a comment on hearing the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The fa'idah we can take from the athar of Abdullah ibn Umar, is that every time you present a hadith to Rasul, every time you present a hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam to anybody who is conversing with you or is having a dialogue with you, and you bring a hadith to settle the matter. You bring a hadith to settle the matter. And then that person outright makes a comment on that hadith where he explicitly or implicitly goes against the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and following the way of Abdullah ibn Umar, you can say la'anak Allah, la'anak Allah, la'anak Allah. Just like Abdullah ibn Umar radiyallahu anhuma said to his son. You can imagine that how severe this issue must have been, that he cursed his own son. He cursed him. You know, he said 3 times. He cursed him 3 times, not once. Now, so we move on today. The side heading of the translator is the practice of noble imams, whereas the author, he gave the heading as Madhhab al-Imami Abi Hanifa innama huwa al-amalu bil-kitabi wa sunnah. That the madhab of Abu Hanifa was to make amal of the kitab and the sunnah. This was the amal of, or the stance of Abu Hanifa. So the Shaykh, he says that it has been from the author of Al-Hidayah, it has been transmitted that in Rawdatul Ulama al-Zandusiyya, this author can be found in this book called Rawdatul Ulama al-Zandusiyya, that it was said to Abu Hanifa that إذا قلت قولا, that Abu Hanifa was asked that if you say something that is in disagreement with the Quran, what should we do in this case? Kitabullah said, إذا قلت قولا وكتاب الله يخالفه. So Abu Hanifa said, أتركوا قولي لكتاب الله. He said, act according. He said, he replied, act according to the commands of the Quran and discard my words. Discard my words. He was again asked, if your words go against the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, how should we act in this situation? He said, أتركوا قولي لخبر رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. In which he said that, Abu Hanifa once replied, he said, discard my words and act upon the hadith. Once more, he was asked, if your words oppose the words and the actions of the noble companions of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, أترك قولي لقول الصحابة رضي الله عنهم. That, again, repeated his reply, discard my words and follow the example of the noble companions, Ridwanullahi alayhim ajma'in. So this is the author of that has been the narration that has been reported back to Abu Hanifa. So it's there's about 2 or 3 benefits that can be derived from this author or this report of Abu Hanifa. if it is authentically established back to him. But nevertheless, it's mentioned by the Hanafis themselves in their books. That is what is important for us. The first thing is, it is perfectly acceptable and with common sense to say that Abu Hanifa, being a man, his statement or his position can contradict the Book of Allah and the Sunnah of Muhammad Rasulullah and the Athar of the Sahaba. All these three things are possible because that's why he was asked that, what do we do? So the scenario was mentioned. The scenario being mentioned means that the probability and the possibility of this to happen and occur is very highly likely. Well-Amr al-Thani, or the second point that we can say with regards to this athar, or this narration that is being said about Abu Hanifa, is that it is perfectly fine to abandon the fatwa or the position of a scholar when there is a contradiction between the fatwa or the statement or the position of the scholar and the Quranic ayah or a hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam or an athar of a sahaba. Thirdly is that according to Abu Hanifa, based upon this athar that we have just read now, according to Abu Hanifa, it is perfectly fine without any restrictions or any conditions to abandon the fatwa or a position of a scholar as soon as a Quranic ayah or a hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam or athar of a sahaba comes to you. Meaning that you don't have to be an expert in hadith or be an expert in fiqh or be an expert in this and be an expert in that, as they say. It's perfectly fine for you to normally do that. So this was the athar of Abu Hanifa, has been mentioned. In a book called Al-Imta', and Al-Bayhaqi has mentioned in his Sunan, Shafi'i, Al-Imam Shafi'i rahimahullah, he said, إذا قلت قولا وكان عن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم خلاف قولي فما يصح من حديث رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم أو لا فلا تقلدني. Naam. Ash-Shafi said, if I say something and it is in discord with the words of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, if I say something and my statement, my position and my fatwa is contrary or is in discord with what the Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, then in this case discard my opinion and act upon the hadith. And then he said, فَلَا تُقَلِّدُنِي. Now I don't know why the translator didn't translate this most important part. فَلَا تُقَلِّدُنِي. So Shafi'i used the word taqleed, just as Ahmad used the word taqleed, and Shafi'i said فَلَا تُقَلِّدُنِي, meaning that don't blindly follow me. Again, the benefit that we can derive once again from this athar of Ash-Shafi'i, that taqleed was used as something which was disparaged and dispraised and detested and rejected. And he says that the Imam of al-Haramain mentions from Shafi'i rahimahullah, he said, وَهَذَا لَا خِلَافَ فِيهِ, that this has been explicitly mentioned by Imam al-Haramain with regards to what Shafi'i said, and there is no khilaf in this. And it is narrated in Al-Kafi, a book called Al-Kafi, and it is said, Al-Imam al-Haramain, he is referring to Al-Juwayni. He is famously known as the Imam al-Haramain amongst the Shafi'iyya, is known as Al-Juwayni. They call him Imam al-Haramain. A Shafi'i scholar and Ashari in Aqidah, famously known as Al-Juwayni. Before the end of his life, he retracted from a lot of his Ashari precepts and tendencies and accepted many of the positions of the Salaf. From amongst them was the issue of al-istiwa, wal-ulu, wal-fawqiyya, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's ascension, and the mas'ala of Allah, that Allah spoke with a voice and letters. Now, he wrote a book on that subject before he died. In Al-Kafi, it's mentioned that لو أفتى المفتي المجتهد بالشيء وثبت الحديث عن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم على خلافة يجب العمل على خلافة يجب العمل بالحديث لأن قول رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. We find that in Al-Kafi it has been mentioned that if a jurist, a faqih or a mujtahid passes a verdict and that verdict is not in accordance with the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in such case it is obligatory to act in confirmation of hadith, and the verdict of the jurist or the mujtahid should be ignored and rejected, because the status of hadith is much higher as compared to the jurist's verdict, his fatwa. So this is in Al-Kafi, from what we understand from this statement of Sahib Al-Kafi, is that if the mufti's fatwa is contrary to what the Prophet ﷺ said, and that what is established from the Prophet ﷺ, is contrary to that, then يجب العمل بالحديث. What is it? It is obligatory to act upon the hadith. And this is now, people talk about the usul. The usul of the people of hadith is that whoever is the scholar, whoever the scholar may be, from the imams to the scholars of today, whether it's Bin Baz, Albani, Ibn Uthaymeen, and other great scholars. I mention these scholars because they are contemporary scholars. If their fatwa or their position is contrary to what the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says or states, then it's obligatory to abandon their positions and their fatwas and act upon the hadith. That's how simple and straightforward. The equation is very straightforward. According to the fanatics, the muta'assiba, they say that it is obligatory for you to, their usul is what? It is obligatory for you to blindly follow and stick to the imam's position and abandon the hadith. So these are two, people say, what is your usul and what is the usul? From this we derive our usul. And many of the scholars of the Madhhab, they concurred and they reiterated this usul, which is the usul of the people of hadith, which is that no position or no statement or no fatwa is to be given preference and the hadith being sacrificed due to venerating the imam or the mufti or the scholar. He says this is not possible. Because why? How can you abandon the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam for the fatwa or a statement of a man who is below him in status? Not possible. That's why he explained here, he said, because the status of hadith is much higher as compared to the mufti's fatwa. If the words of a mufti are acceptable as lawful argument, meaning that the fatwa of a scholar in the Sharia is accepted to be ad-dalil al-shar'i, can be taken as legal evidence. The status of a fatwa of a mufti is such in the deen, it can be taken as legal evidence. Then the qawl of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, meaning the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, is awla wa ahra, which is divine revelation. So the words of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam should to be accepted without any further arguments, meaning awla, that without, if that is a status of the fatwa of a mufti, it is something which is accepted as a dalil shar'i. What about the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, which is greater in status, which is divine revelation? Because the dalil al-shar'i is based upon an inference. What is it based upon? It's based upon an istinbat and istidlal which the mufti makes, based upon the kitab and the sunnah. Whereas the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, in it by itself is divine revelation and proof and evidence. Whereas the mufti, he derives the proof and the evidence through his understanding. Whereas the words of the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they by themselves are proof and evidence, which is strong enough. An inference that is made, or the words by themselves that stand as proof of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, which are in it by themselves, those words, proof and evidence of Rasulullah, of divine revelation, a hujjah and proof. And this is what the Shaykh rahimahullah, he said. Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah, he mentioned in A'lam al-Muwaqqi'in, he mentioned this, he said that the companions of, what did he say? He said, that all the followers and companions of Abu Hanifa agree that even a weak hadith excels qiyas, analogy, and opinion. So this is an argument now with regards to what Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah has mentioned in A'lam al-Muwaqqi'in, that according to Abu Hanifa and his companions, there is a statement that is attributed to them that they would prefer weak hadith over qiyas, over analogy. And they say that this is upon what their madhhab has been built upon. This is in reality debatable of whether this was the position of the Hanafiya. As we know that the Hanafiya, they are known as Ahlul Ra'i wal Qiyas, famously. But this is a statement that has been said about them. And Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah, he mentioned this in A'lam al-Muwaqqi'in. This is what has been said. ومن باب حسن الظن المعصومي الخجندي رحمه الله, he mentioned this. Out of his Husn al-Dhan for Abu Hanifa and his companions, due to the other statements that have been said about them with regards to giving preference to Sahih Hadith, and that he said is most likely that they would give preference to Al-Hadith al-Da'if or Al-Qiyas wal-Rai. So he said, فَمَنْ يَقُولُ, if anybody says that it is not obligatory to act upon the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam it can be very easily assumed that he is not a true Muslim. So if somebody came to you now and somebody said to you, don't follow the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, most of the people will make takfir on such a person. It's explicit. It's stopping you from following the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. But this is done in a very conniving manner. Connivingly, people, the fanatics, don't come and directly tell you, don't act upon the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Although some fanatics do. If you go to some masajid and if you were to do raful yadayn, or if you were to say Ameen aloud, or if you were to join feet by feet, then you would see the reaction of the people. They would have a problem. These people would have a problem you doing raful yadayn. These people would have a problem you saying Ameen aloud. These people would have a problem you moving your finger when you're praying, when you're sitting in tashahhud. But if you see the hundreds of bid'ah that are being practiced in the masjid, they would have no problems with any of them. They'll be relaxed about them. But the animosity and something which they dislike is for what? It's for the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. So once I was debating with a Hanafi, and the issue that he was debating with me was with regards to raising the hands in salah. And he debated, and we talked, and we talked, and we talked. And at the end, I said to him, I want to ask you one final question. Let's say, for the sake of argument, if a Hanafi was to do raful yadayn in salah, what is the ruling upon such a person? Give me the hukm. Let's say I agree with all your arguments. It's mansukh, it's abrogated, it was done in the beginning of Islam. I said I accept. I'm now giving you a scenario that a person does raful yadayn who is a Hanafi in his salah, he raises his hands. What is the ruling on this person? Give me the hukm. First of all, give me the hukm that is his salah accepted or rejected. Because according to the Hanafis, kathratul haraka in salah tubtilu salah. Constant movement in salah invalidates your prayer, according to the Hanafis. So I said, is this kathratul haraka? Because going into ruku, doing this is it's an action which is, he remained quiet. I said, second scenario that I asked him, I said, I want to ask you now, you haven't given me the job, I'm waiting for you to tell me what is the hukm of this person. The second question that I asked him, they have this concept of following your whims and your desires. They say that if you don't follow a madhhab, you become the slave of your whims and your desires. So you're always commuting from one madhhab to another. You like this from the Hanafi madhhab, so you take that. They say the Hanafi madhhab, oh, you don't need a wali to get married. Khalas, I'll take that. In the Shafi madhhab, you say, to do masa, you just need to flick on some hair like this, and your masa is done. I'll take that. In a Maliki madhhab, you see something. In the Hanbali madhhab, you see something. You take that. So they say that because of you not being able to control yourself, becoming a prey for your hawa and your shahwa, and commuting and making intiqal from madhab to another, to discipline you, it is obligatory to do taqleed of one madhab and just stick to it. This is the argument. Yeah, this is the base of this whole book. This is the argument of something being wajib. So I thought about this argument for many, many years. And I came to the conclusion that yes, moving from one madhab to another is following your desires. I have to agree with you on this. So when I mentioned this to one of the Deobandis, who once I was having a dialogue with, he said, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. See, now you have to stop becoming ghair muqallid. Ghair muqallid is somebody who doesn't do taqleed. That's what this is like a derogatory term that they use for us. They say ghair muqallid. Alhamdulillah, you have now accepted. So chill, man, chill, I'm finished. Let me speak. I've already told you the first part of what I want to say. Let me finish my whole statement. The statement is not finished yet. Wait till what you have to say afterwards. I said, you madhabists can follow your desires. Why? Because making intiqal from one madhab to another is making intiqal from right to right, from ara to ara, from opinion to opinion. This is desire. But when the Ahlul Hadith, when they leave the position of one person or one scholar for another, they don't leave it due to the opinion of another scholar, they leave it due to the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. How can abandoning the position or a fatwa of a scholar due to a hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam be a concept or be a ruling of following your desire? A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. The following of the desire is amongst you guys. That's the monopoly that you have created. But for the one, even in the madhab, who abandons the rai of Abu Hanifa due to the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, how can somebody who is acting upon the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam be following his desire? I said to you, we did him with the full argument. That's why the famous poet, he said, من استعجل شيئا قبل أوانه عوقب بحرمانه. Meaning in the English language that you have to wait for the chickens for the eggs to hatch. Now, Umar, don't get excited when you see eggs. Let the chicken hatch the eggs. Let the eggs be hatched. Then make your decision. So I said, you got excited for nothing. I agree that amongst you muqallids there is the concept of hawa. But amongst the Ahlul Hadith there is no concept of hawa, because then I said we go back to the first question. Is doing Raful Yadayn inside Salah following your desire? Tell me now. Tell me that to follow the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is following your desire. Can it be so that following the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, hawa be involved in that? Allah says, وَمَا يَنْتِقُ عَنِ الْهَوَىٰ إِنْ هُوَ إِلَّا وَحْيُ يُوحَىٰ. And you say it's hawa. What do you say? You say it's hawa. So this was a discussion that I had with this Deobandi Maulana. I had no answer. I said to him, you have to give me a fatwa now for this Hanafi who prayed Salah and he did Rafal Yadayn. Or he said Ameen and loud. What did he do? He said Ameen and loud. What's the hukam? What's the hukam? Did he follow his desire? Is this following his desire? Say to me that he's following his desire. I want to hear this from you. He's scratching his head and he's thinking, what should he say? I said, now you're going to leave me mu'allaq with no fatwa. I need fatwa from you. You're mufti. Are you mufti or mufati? You understand the difference between mufti and mufati, Umar? Mufti is what you call a mufti. And mufati is what you call a freebie in our language. So all these muftis that you see, in reality, they're not muftis. What are they? They're mufatis. You have many of them around. Yeah, mufati this and mufati that. So when we use their names with the titles that they've given themselves, in reality, they're not muftis. What are they? Well, they are mufatis. So you can call them mufatis, but don't call them muftis. So this is what the Shaykh said. And Shaykh al-Hadith, الشيخ العلامة المحدث مولانا محمد إسماعيل السلفي رحمه الله تعالى, he has an amazing book called Hujjiyatul Hadith. This book is one of when I want to refine my iman about hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, I go back and read this book, Hujjiyatul Hadith by Shaykh al-Allama Muhammad Ismail al-Salafi. The book was written in the Urdu language called Hujjiyat Hadith. Then the book was translated into the Arabic language by Shaykh Muqtada Hassan Azhari, rahimahullah ta'ala. It's available in the Arabic language as well. This book of Shaykh al-Hadith, Muhammad Ismail Salafi, rahimahullah ta'ala, the amazing thing about this book is that he has a chart, a big chart. And the Shaykh rahimahullah has categorized the different levels of rejecting hadith, and he's put all the sects into their categories. So he'll start with the top, who are the Parvezis, Ghulam Parvez and Chakralvi. These guys are the top who completely reject hadith. And then he'll work all the way down till his time. And you'll find whether the Deobandis and the Brailvis and the Jamaat Islami, Abu al-Ala Maududi, everybody is in there. And then he gives you the reasons of what type of mild type of rejections they have of hadith. Meaning he says that rejection of hadith is either explicit or implicit. Rejection of hadith is either explicit and implicit. And rejection of hadith is denial of accepting its hujjiyah, its authority. And he puts this beautiful chart down. And I remember making notes on that chart, and subhanallah, the fatana of the Shaykh, the deep insight of the Shaykh rahimahullah, he put everybody, the modernists, he put all of them in his time. He put all of them down, and he said, look, this is how these guys, you have the Premier League and Division 1 and Division 2 and Division 3, and in the olden days they used to have the Vauxhall Conference and all these leagues that you have. So he starts with the top notch, and then he goes all the way. And then he tells you that all of them have a form of rejection of hadith. That the forms of rejecting hadith are of different types and of different levels. An amazing book for a talib al-ilm. By Allah, I said that this book should be translated into the English language. The hujjiyah of the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, nobody has served this aspect of defending the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That's why we have compiled on the hujjiyat of hadith about 8 or 9 different books which I have edited, which I hope to publish in the Urdu language. by the Shaykh by the name of Abdurrauf Jandagari, rahmatullah alayhi, a Nepali scholar, Ahlul Hadith, Salafi scholar, who wrote on the different topics of the hujjiyat of hadith, the status of hadith, the implementation of hadith. We compiled all his different articles, and alhamdulillah, I think it's reached to 300, 400 pages. We hope to publish this. They were all scattered and published in the 30s and the 40s in different magazines, and now we compiled all of them, edited them, and hope to publish bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. 90% of the work has been done. Just some work of takhrij remains on it, which I need to look through and revise. And after that, I remember when I went to see our Shaykh Wasiul Abbas and I told him what I had done, the Shaykh kissed me on my forehead and made a lot of dua for me when I told him that it took me about 2 years to compile all the different articles and put them together. And this is in defense of the hujjiyah of the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This is my service, and I believe my obligation to serve the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. For those of you who read Urdu, inshallah, and I trust I may send the final draft for you to read, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. Anybody who starts to read these small books, you can call them books, they're books in themselves, will realize the knowledge of Shaykh Abdurrauf Jandagari rahimahullah. Shaykh Wasiullah told me that when he would come to Makkah, he would stay at the Shaykh's house. And Shaykh Abdurrauf Jandagari rahmatullah alayhi was a very close friend of Shaykh Abdulaziz bin Baz. Him and Shaykh bin Baz were very, very close friends. And the Shaykh has written 2 or 3 books in defense of Sahih al-Bukhari as well. And I think Shaykh Wasiullah told me that once he was asked the question, he said, somebody asked him the question, he said, Shaykh, when you meet your Rabb, Yawm al-Qiyamah, and you stand in front of your Rabb, Shaykh, what would you say to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? He said, I will say to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on Yawm al-Qiyamah, he has a book, this is in defense of Bukhari, that, Ya Allah, I am a person who is a sinful person. I am not a person who has any deeds, but I have bought the defense of Imam al-Bukhari Sahih. Forgive me for this sake. We'll use that as a hujjah for me. He said, this is what I stand in front of my Rabb. I will have the hope that Allah will forgive me due to this small action of mine in defense of Sahih al-Bukhari. So we have this, and the Shaykh, he says that you can't be a true Muslim, can you, if you are going to reject? He says it can be very easily assumed that he is not a true Muslim and intends to discard it merely on the basis of presumptions. So his rejection of hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is based upon what? Is based upon these presumptions, this dhann. Again, they say that you don't do analogy, but they do analogy. They say, they speculate. You're going to follow your desires. You're going to do this. You're going to do that. You will fall into this and you fall into that. Therefore, you have to blindly follow a madhhab. He says, what does he say? He says, Naam. He said, if anybody makes excuses, before that he says, he is doing it on purpose because no Muslim can dare to think of it. No Muslim can dare to think, to oppose. A normal Muslim, if you went to him and said to him, would you oppose the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam? The standard answer would be no. How can I oppose the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam? If anybody makes excuses that grasping the sense of hadith is not possible, this is what they say. They say, how are you talking about hadith? You need to study for 20 years in a Darul Ulum and graduate and become a Maulana. And you need to do this and you need to do that and you need to master 20 different disciplines before you yourself can act upon the hadith. Just imagine this long list criteria that they come out with, nobody's heard of. 20 years of studying and you need to study all these different sciences. Then you may think about hadith. You can't even act upon it. So according to these people, according to these people, there's only 4 mujtahids that have ever come in this dunya. The 4 imams that they believe, because they say, these muqallids, they believe that the doors of ijtihad are closed. They can't do ijtihad. They say you have to do ijtihad. You have to be like, you have to be like Superman. You have to master 70, 80 different sciences, and you've got to know every single line of poetry, and you've got to know every single hadith, and you've got to know this, and you've got to know there's something which is ajib, buddy. Huh? Just to do Rafal Yadayn, yes, as Umar says, just to do Rafal Yadayn, you've got to go study for 50, 60 years and master 20 and have 10 different types of degrees. And this is what the Shaykh says. He says, if anybody makes excuses that grasping the sense of hadith is not possible, it is only a lame excuse. What does the Shaykh say? Keep these lame excuses to yourself. So according to these people, reading the books of fiqh which contain hundreds of opinions, contradicting opinions of their scholars, is not confusing. But to read the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is going to misguide you. Implicitly, they say reading the hadith and the Quran is going to misguide you. Actually, there's fanatics in Afghanistan now from the Taliban who are actually telling people that if you read the Quran translation, you're going to be misguided. I remember when the Deobandi started selling, when this bookshop trend started in the UK in the 90s. So the Deobandis were telling people, even now, and you can go check this out, they have this biggest Deobandi publishers and distributors in London is the Zamzam publishers. They believe that you can't read hadith. Yes. Well, go to their bookshop, you'll find all the books of hadith and their translations being sold. For business, it's okay. To sell it for business, it's okay. So they tell you that you can't read hadith, but then they sell it in the bookshops. It's okay for business. So these lame excuses that they come up with are not acceptable anywhere and in any condition. This is the Shaykh. This is decisive what the Shaykh says. He says, he says that these type of lame excuses, how can it be accepted when Allah revealed the Quran for guidance and for understanding its meaning and to observe its commands in practical life? Allah commanded the Prophet ﷺ to explain its meaning to all. Allah said, لِتُبَيِّنَ لِلنَّاسِ مَا نُزِّلَ إِلَيْهِمْ, that you may explain clearly to men what is sent down to them. So the Sunnah has come to explain what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed. So how is it possible that the words and sayings of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, which are basically to explain the meaning of the Quran and beyond the understanding of people, except one Imam? So only one Imam can understand the words of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Only the one who is a mujtahid can understand the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Me and you, we need to study for 50 years. And even after 50 years, we have to master 80 sciences before we can start acting upon the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Until then, you just have to act upon opinions. So he says, on the presumption of blind followers that they that there has not been no mujtahid for centuries. I told you, they say that the doors of ijtihad are closed. Logically, no one is presently intelligent enough to understand the Quran and Hadith thoroughly. So everybody's daft, basically. Everybody is daft. Everybody are fools. Everybody is ignorant. None of us can understand the Quran and Hadith. So you ask them this question, then why do you teach Hadith in your Darul Ulooms if nobody can understand it? This skim speed reading that you do of Sahih al-Bukhari, 160 or 180 miles an hour, that even if the traffic cameras were to try to catch the reader, I don't think they would be able to catch him. Well, the guy's going too fast. Just like when I was young, and we heard about this. I think I might have mentioned this story to the brothers, that we heard about this place in Ramadan that does Taraweeh in 20 minutes. In 20 minutes. So this is like a small house, and when I heard about this place, that they pray 20 rakats in 20 minutes, that's 1 rakat a minute, with the whole juz. So we decided to go there. I said 20-30 minutes, you'll be out of Taraweeh, 20 rakats, while the people, when my dad and everybody's praying, we can go for a nice faluda. I remember I was young, it was like summertime. So we went there to pray Salat Taraweeh, 20 rakats. And the guy started, it was 5 different huffaz, each praying 4 rakats. So you had 5 different huffaz leading. And the guy, he went, Allahu Akbar. No, subhanakallah, direct, Allahu Akbar, alhamdulillah rabbil alameen, middin, ya'lamun, ta'lamun, ya'lamun. That's all we heard. We could only hear the last words of the ayah. What he said in between, only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows. And then the ruku and the sujood and the Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. It was like, I remember when we used to go to school, I used to tell they used to make us do, when they used to teach us, when they used to teach you in nursery, the parts of the body. They teach you, then they say heads and shoulders and knees and toes, knees and toes. Heads and shoulders. This was like heads and shoulders, knees and toes, knees and toes. When I was praying behind them, I was thinking that I remember something today, and I remember that this is, the last time I remember something like this happened was when I was in nursery. When my nursery teacher was teaching me heads and shoulders and knees and toes and knees and toes and knees and toes. That's how fast these people were praying. So this skim reading of Sahih al-Bukhari that they do, what's the point of reading hadith when you can't understand it? They read it for barakah. They say clearly, we read hadith for barakah. We don't read it to act upon it. You ask them, why are you reading hadith? They say it's for barakah. And this is what the Shaykh said, that there has been no mujtahid for centuries. Logically, no one is presently intelligent enough to understand the Quran and Hadith thoroughly. In the beginning, such topics and ideas were propagated by those who wished to conceal the position of their Madhhab and their own ill will against the Quran and the Sunnah, for the purpose of hiding the contradiction of Madhhab. This is how it started. First, they came out secretly. Then slowly they programmed everything. And slowly they started to come out of their holes. In the first phase, the understanding of the Quran and Hadith was limited to jurists of Islamic law or imams, to the fuqaha and imams. In the second phase, the existence of jurists was absolutely negated. Khalas, we'll stop here inshallah. Next lesson, we'll go through this in detail. Bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. We'll stop here inshallah. Barakallahu feekum. If there's any direct questions, We'll take a few questions and we'll end the lesson, inshallah. Now,
the statement you mentioned of the Shaykh, a fatwa of mine goes against what Rasulullah says. So in this case, don't blindly follow him.
لا تقللني now.
So does he believe blind following in that sense is permissible if it doesn't belong?
No, it doesn't.
As in one of the previous lessons, you mentioned that the scholars differ with regard to the terminology, but the outcome is the same.
Yeah, but at the time of Shafi'i, this terminology wasn't there. This word was just used in a sense of imitation. It wasn't used in its technical sense. How taqleed, the term taqleed evolved as a technical term after the 4th century.
Right.
Now, any questions?
No, there's a sister's question from last week.
What?
Still quite relevant.
What was the question?
She says, what is the answer to someone who says, if the haqq is one, how come then more than one sunnah is established?
How is...
I think she was referring to when you said if there's more than one sunnah, like raising your hands to your ears and raising your hands to your shoulders.
This is not one. There's no contradiction between them. Like I said to you, both acts are established. To raise your hands to the shoulders and raise your hands to the earlobes. The Prophet did both actions. How is there a contradiction? The haqq is one. Both actions are part of the haqq. And both actions are not contradictory because the Prophet ﷺ's amal was that he would raise his hands to the earlobes and to the shoulders, but raising the hands to the shoulders was his more familiar and frequent practice. So how does that divide the truth? The haqq is not divided. The haqq meaning divided is when somebody claims to something to be the haqq, and then he claims something which is contrary to that. Meaning both halal and haram to be the haqq. This is what it means that the haqq la yata'addad. Now, with regards to Raf al-Yadayn, this is harmonized. Now,
Ahsanallahu alaykum, Shaykh. A brother asks, Shaykh, those who reject the hadith knowingly, if once you mention the hadith to them, how should we deal with such individuals?
I'll give them nasiha, tell them to fear Allah, tell them that they will be asked on Yawm al-Qiyamah, tell them that Bilal ibn Abdullah ibn Umar, he just showed his resentment with regards to the hadith, and his father said, La'anak Allah, La'anak Allah, La'anak Allah, cursed him 3 times. He didn't act upon it, he just mentioned what he intended to do, and he was already cursed 3 times by his own father. Now,
there is one question. So what does they mean by La tuqallidu? Do not learn from me, do not take words from me, fatwa, I don't understand this. About the Shaykh Albani's video on trousers, does this apply for modern fashion as well?
Does this apply for?
Modern fashion.
Modern fashion.
Yes, like you. What else must we not imitate the kuffar? And besides akhlaq and clothing, because of the chapter of Ibn Taymiyyah on tying the turban a different way to the kuffar, what else does this apply to?
With regards to la tuqalliduni, then la tuqalliduni means that don't blindly follow me. Don't blindly follow me. The word taqlid, like I have mentioned, linguistically in the Arabic language means a leash that is tied around the neck of a dog. A leash that is tied around the neck of a dog, this is where the word taqlid comes from. Or those things which you tie and pull the animals, the cattle and everything that they are tied around, This is what they call at-taqlid, wal-qala'id. With regards to what Shafi'i rahimahullah said, and he said that taqlid here refers to, in the statement, in the context of what Shafi'i rahimahullah mentioned today, is that if you abandon the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, which in favor of a scholar's opinion, then you have done taqlid, and this is haram. And with regards to wearing the trousers, Shaykh Albani rahimahullah's analysis and Shaykh Albani rahimahullah's statement is clear. I advise the person who asked this question to read the work by Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah, Iqtidā'u Sirāt al-Mustaqīm. This book is the best book written, in my opinion, with regards to tashabbuh bil kuffar, resembling the kuffar. Shaykh al-Islam brings all the qawaid and all the principles. With regards to wearing trousers, then there are two issues which are problematic. The first issue is the issue of your trousers being tight and your awrah not being covered. This is the first issue. The second issue is at-tashabbuh bil kuffar. Tashabbuh bil kuffar. Based upon this, the fatwa of Shaykh Albani rahimahullah ta'ala stands clearly of what the Shaykh said, and the Shaykh's position is correct. Most of the people who wear such trousers, when they prostrate in salah, then their private parts are exposed. And so this goes against the condition of a salah. Secondly, the debate of whether this attire or this dressing is something which is specific to the kuffar or not, then there is a detailed discussion on this. And it requires a detailed answer from the people of knowledge. Khulasatul kalam is that I don't advise any of our brothers to pray in trousers. At the least, when you come for salah, have your jilbab with you and put your jilbab on whilst you are praying. A thawb or something on that covers your satar. Don't put yourself in a state of doubt, because this is with regards to the issue of salah, which differentiates a Muslim from a kafir. Don't take this issue lightly. Walillāhi alhamdu wal minna, since the age of 14, I have not worn a trousers entirely, in the sense that, I don't say I've never worn a trousers in the sense, because I have been to the beach and I have been to places where done some football or something like that. What I mean is that I have not taken it as an attire. I have not prayed my salawat with it. It just doesn't make sense as a Muslim. So the fatwa of the people of knowledge stands. This is why here in Basira, I mentioned to the Amir here, we're going to hang up a few pegs here, and we're going to, when I go now back to Saudi Arabia, I'm going to bring back a few jilbabs and leave them here. Anybody comes, we'll tell them, wear this and pray. Don't pray like this with us. Put about 6, 7 here. And this is the best, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. No.
So another one question about the taking knowledge. What is the extent of permissibility of taking knowledge from Ash'ari scholars?
No. The asal is that you do not take knowledge from Ahlul Bidah. The asal is not to take knowledge from Ahlul Bidah. The Ash'ari are from Ahlul Bidah, they are not from al-Sunnah. So knowledge should not be taken from them. Those who are permitted to read the books of the Ash'ari. For example, al-Baqilani has a refutation on the Mu'tazila. He's Ash'ari. Other people of knowledge, the ulama, and the strong students of knowledge, who know the deviancy of such people and who know their mistakes and are firm upon their own aqidah, and they are the ones who can read their works. With regards to the layman, with regards to the beginner, with regards to even a student of knowledge is firm, then it is not advised that they read the works of the Ash'ari. No. بارك الله فيكم. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.